For the next portion of our drawing, we're going to be creating our chimney and our railing. We're not going to create siding because we don't have the ability to put a hatch in AutoCAD Web. So what I need you to do is open up your exterior elevations, and we're going to create a new layer called GDOT Heavy, and it will be white in color. GDOT Heavy, or Detail Heavy, is a general layer. So caps lock on, G Detail Heavy, H-E-V-Y. Okay. And what this layer is used for is creating our heavy lines. These green ones here are our lines that we see in elevation, and the heavy lines, when printed, are going to print out a little bit thicker so they pop off the page, right? And they show us that the brick is nice, thick, and massive. We're going to be drawing here in our south elevation. So looking at that document, it says for us to draw two vertical lines first, talking about these two lines here. Now the location of those lines, since we're going to be drawing our fireplace, come from our XREF drawing of our fireplace. So we just want to draw those two lines down, straight down to our porch from each edge of our fireplace. Now we're going to trim those based on the height of our gutter. So we want to trim off right there, and then we can just get rid of those two. Now for our 2'8" portion of the chimney that extends up and beyond, we want to center that based on these two lines. So what we can do is draw ourselves a little temporary line from, say, the midpoint here to the midpoint there. Went a little too far. And then from that line's midpoint, I can draw a line straight up. Now how far, we're going to find that out in just a second, but we know that it's going to extend up and beyond our peak of the roof. And now since the total width is 2 feet 8 inches, that means that I want to offset this line here, half of that, being 1 foot 4 inches each way. And then we can delete that center reference line, and also this middle line that we used to locate that center line. Looking back at the document, we want our top portion of the chimney to stop 34 feet 8 inches above our top of the porch. And so I'm going to take this line here and offset up by 34 feet 8 inches. And since I want my new line to be in the GDOT Heavy layer, I'm just going to draw a line from this endpoint straight across. I can then delete my reference and trim all of these lines to get the top of my chimney. Now, looking at the document, it comes down and intersects this upper roof. Now, to find out exactly where that intersection is happening, I need to look at my chimney when I look at my chimney from the east elevation, I know that it's going to be sticking out over here on this side of the home. I know that because we're drawing this same chimney here. So when I look at the PDF, it tells me that the chimney starts here on the wall and comes out 2 feet 8 inches. The lower portion that's on my porch comes out 3 feet from that same wall. Now the height of that chimney, I'm going to get that from looking back over onto my south elevation. So instead of me offsetting a line over and tracing up and down, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to first offset this wall over 2 feet 8 inches. And then I'm going to change that wall's layer. If I select the wall, go to my Properties tab, I can choose which layer I want it to be in, GDOT Heavy. So I know that it's going to come up as tall as this chimney over here because it's the same chimney. So I'm just going to draw over an extension line and extend up. I can then trim off this value. Now my chimney comes over 2 feet 8 inches. I can offset this line back over 2 feet 8 inches and then just trim up the segments that I don't need. For this chimney where it intersects this roof, I just want to extend it down. And here at this point is where I know that the chimney intersects my lower, it is at this height that I will be trimming my actual chimney off over here, my south elevation. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing some projection lines across so I know where to trim that at, as well as drawing an extension line or reference line back to know where my chimney intersects my roof in my east elevation. So I'm going to draw a line from my east elevation. My line command will start. There we go. From my east elevation over to my south. At that line is where I'm going to be trimming those two vertical line segments off and get rid of that temporary line. We're going to leave this one here blank because it's a little soft transition from where my lower roof cuts into or butts up against my chimney. I do want to trim out my roof though up here where my chimney is because it is in front of that fascia board. What that gives me though is the intersection point where my chimney actually touches this roof. And so if I draw another reference line across, it's at this height that my chimney will be cutting into and covering this upper portion of this roof. And so I can fill it from those two corners and trim out my roof. Now, at this roof junction, or at this point, is where my roof continues to come down. So I won't see my chimney below it within my roof in this area, but I will still see my chimney beyond my roof. Honestly though, we want to get rid of this line, and we want to draw in another segment here in my GDOT medium layer. We want to see this transition, but it's a softer transition because again, it's where my roof just touches up against my home. So we don't want it to be in the GDOT Heavy layer. For the lower portion, if you remember, my roof, or not my roof, but my chimney is 3 feet out down here. And so again, I can offset this same exact line by 3 feet over here to the left. I want to swap its layer by going back to properties and putting it in the GDOT Heavy layer. And this time I'm going to be lazy and just grab my extension points and drag them down to what they actually intersect. Next, we have our chimney caps to place. Those caps will be 3 feet 4 inches wide and 8 inches tall on both of our elevations. So, starting over here on the south elevation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a rectangle. Oops, correct layer though. I'm going to draw myself a rectangle that is 3 feet 4 inches wide by 8 inches tall. And I'm going to place it from its midpoint on top of our chimney. Now I'm just going to simply copy that from its midpoint and place it on top of that chimney. Well, this chimney can also be seen from 2 other elevations. If I look from the west, I'm going to be able to see that chimney above my garage up here. So it should be over here. And also, if I look from the south, I'm going to be able to see that chimney beyond my home just in this area. Well, what's pretty cool is I can use some of that math or use some of my knowledge based on that this home is this home in reverse, or this home is that home in reverse. And I can move, copy, mirror some things around to get them to be in the exact same place. The east elevation is a little bit easier going over to the west because it touches the top edge of that roof. And so if I copy this bit of information, or if I mirror this bit of information straight across, what I know, I always hit escape, dang it. If I mirror it, what I know is that if I move this directly horizontally over until my left line is touching my roof line, ooh, no, not my roof line. I guess it'd be touching my wall line, then I would be at the correct space. Now remember, we have a tiny little wall all the way over here, and it's the outer line of those two. So what I want to do is take this drawing, move it, I'll move from this bottom endpoint over to where I get to be perpendicular to this little line. Now I don't want to move it to the midpoint or endpoint. I want to right click, snap override, perpendicular, and touch that line. So what it's going to do is place it in the correct spot. And for my trimming, I won't be able to see it over either of my roofs or under or through the roofs. So I just want to trim off both segments. If that doesn't work for you, you can always draw yourself a little temporary line straight up and then move it until it touches that temporary line, but don't forget to delete it. For this one, what I'm going to do, a little bit easier, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to mirror it based on my roof peak. Now if I then move this one based off of the top of my roof peak, and I come straight over to my north elevation, and I place it on that roof peak, that is the exact location or distance left or right from that peak that I want to be. So I'm just going to trim off in there and get rid of those extra little lines. So that is our first chimney. If we had time, we would go through and draw in our other fireplace's chimney. But in the sake of time and distance learning, we're not going to put those 2 in, or 4 in.